Hi there people, so I'm just going to do a quick video here showing off, well, what is driving all of my overlays and everything now in my streams. And you can see it obviously down the bottom of this window in the case of this. So it is a combination of three items. We have the primary item here, which is a C# application that runs most of the main functionality. There is a small web bridge that runs over on my web server as part of a larger integration set. It acts as a bridge, and we can see this down here. If I come down to runtime status, you can see that we have the Kik API section here, and we have this Kik bridge section down the bottom. And if we come to connections, we have this Kik bridge. The reason for this is because Kik, unlike Twitch, does not do a WebSocket communication back and forth for a lot of its stuff. So if we were to look at the Kik API, right? So give me a second to pull it up here. Kik API. So here's the Kik API, right? You'll notice that there's not a lot of stuff in this WebSocket. So we've got some stuff that you'd expect. So we can pull some channel information through a GET and request. We can pull channel rewards. We can do our chat, our moderation, our live streams, our kicks, and users and categories, right? But any events, which is your things like all of these. So your subs, your follows, your reward redemptions, etc., etc. None of these get sent over the WebSocket. They're all a pusher system. It pushes to a location that's subscribed to it, and that's where it's what it's expecting. Now there are some third-party ways around this using unofficial items, but and I've used it for one item in this application, but for the most part I'm trying to use 100% Kik's API. Problem with this, for if I ever release this publicly, is that you'd literally need to come in and make your own Kik dev app, have it all set up, have it pointed to an IP, etc., etc. Basically got to be 100% live, etc., etc. So instead I just built my own bridge that's, I already know that's live, that's protected, that's talking with Kik as it's expected. Back over here though, we have so far integrated Twitch and Kik. YouTube might get there at some point. Might. I am not a big fan of how some of Google's API uses your API call limited to 10,000 calls per app per day. And yeah, unless you request a whole bunch of extra stuff, and it's just a pain in the ass. But we have our streaming console, right? So the Rob streaming console. It's currently version 0.10.73, which should tell you how many times I've actually built this, given it started at version 0.01. And major features have incremented the bed. So this is our dashboard. We get both our chats in here for Kik and Twitch. We also get some pertinent information. We get our Twitch stream viewers automatically. Kik, again, pain in the ass, we do not have a live viewer list. Instead, it looks at who's chatting. and it gives us a viewer list based on that. We have the ability to rapidly upgrade our title, in case we're just changing that. We have OBS integration, so this is actually integrated to my OBS using the OBS WebSocket system. Not required. It requires the stuff for talking to the OBS plugin, but it does not require this part to be active. This is just if I was to run my VTube avatar down here. And this is our music stuff, which we'll see down here shortly. We have stream management, which allows us to do all our normal stream checkup. It'll show us our stream health, etc, etc. It'll also double check once everything goes live that everything that's set here matches. And it'll give you a warning if it doesn't. It was put in because I have this nasty habit of going, hey look, I'm going off to play League, or I'm going off to play Rivals, or I'm going off to play MechWarrior Online, and forgetting to change the category. Viewers is just carbon copy of what's up on the dashboard. Activity, this is literally your activity feed for a session. So like if I come back to the 26th, here's all the activity that was received and everything for back there. So, you know, I can see a follow, I can see a hydrate, see another follow. Kick achievements are just junk that's sent through by Kick. Then we get to our configure stage. Now, this is a WYSIWYG system. I hate some of the existing systems online. So everything we see in here is what we get. So we'll see in the OBS editor. So example, these recent followers and the like are literally this section here. So see, follower, exactly what you're seeing down over here on OBS. I will show some of the how these all integrate in OBS in a moment. We've got all our follows. We can turn around and preview them and the like, and see what we get. We can pull up the editor. So, for example, Hydrate, right? We get our alert editor for Hydrate, and anybody who's used Premiere or any modern editor should understand how this works. Labels don't get an animated timeline, just to be clear, but everything else does. So we get our layers, which we can lock. So we can lock, we can move them up and down, we can delete them and all this stuff. We can add new items, including gold bars and rectangles and images, video, etc, etc. We can set the width and the height. It's important to note that in OBS, this is what's being sent to OBS. OBS will resize to maintain whatever proportions are set here. We've got our duration, we can apply, we can import and export these, which is basically so that we can reuse them. We can preview our variables, we can set things. So this is like a global, big, quick, you know, quick, I just need to make it nice, simple. Give me a message, some sound, and the like, if you don't want to use all of this stuff. Then we have our stuff for like image editing. We can see all of our keyframes, which is mirrored down here, and all of our values, all of our positions. We can click and drag this, so we can do things like this, you know. We can undo that if we, you know, it's like, oops, I did not mean to do that. This is for maybe I've screwed my, oh, there we go. Nope, I've screwed up my undo. I just found a bug, we'll fix that shortly, but it's meant to be undoable. It'll auto keyframe all of this. We've got the ability to fade in and fade out, obviously. We've got the ability to, just like in Premiere and the like, to set up our audio for volume and things like that, so you can fade in, fade out. You can adjust your channel BIOS and all that fun stuff, and of course we can preview it. And like, you know, it's like, maybe that's a little loud. It's blasting my eardrums out, you know, kind of thing. So we can always come in here. Had a bug earlier that added some keyframes and the like. It's like, okay, well, we don't want this keyframe. We don't want this keyframe. And say, look, I'm fine, yeah. We had some bugs in there, right, from earlier. So we can actually go, hey, look, we just want this. We want the hydrate to be a little softer. Maybe, you know, ramp up a little bit. And then towards the end, become a little softer again. And it'll do that. It gives you an idea. So we're gonna, and then when you're done, you just hit save, right? And then you can view it in here using your preview thing, or you can come across to OBS. And for example, we'll just do follow. We can do we'll do one that's not going to actually overload my labels, because I hate that. We'll test the rate.
Rate, it's a rate. You've got more viewers, watch out you. Rate, it's a rate. Will they stay or flee you too?
And you'll notice that I got text-to-speech there as well. I'll explain that in a second. But we get that. So how this is working is we have a couple of new sources, and these are native sources. None of this is the web being pulled through web pages or anything like that. Everything is rendered natively within OBS, which means you don't have a new web browser for every one of these. None of all these are using small amount of memory, minimum footprint, because just easier. So what we get, right? If I come to here, you'll notice that we've got these streaming sources. Streaming now playing, lyrics, labels, goal, emoji rain, blah blah blah, right? So like on lyrics, fairly obvious. This lyrics one, and you'll see it in a minute. It'll show lyrics. Pull up lyrics from songs. This now playing shows that. The alert is our alert, and we can set the size in here, and it tells you that it'll scale to fit. Our stuff here, we can set what label it's for. So recent follower, subscriber, blah blah blah. So all the stuff that's over here for labels, we can set which one it is. It'll pull. Our goals, we can set, it looks over here for what we've got, and we can set which one it is. Our chat can set the information in here, but it's important to understand that the main area where you really want to set chat up is actually in here. It has this lovely apply to OBS button, which lets us pull this information up and the like. I need to do a little bit more on this again, because it's meant to have some stuff for setting the background and things like that. And in one of my new rewrites, I've gotten rid of it. But we can also have its own settings for each source in case you've got a different area. We have our chatbot, so these are all your standard commands. Your your lurk, your shout outs, etc, etc, and all of these can also be tied into a unique alert. So, for example, if I come up here and I do this, right? Actually, we'll do it to both for a second. So if I do like Nug, right, which is one of my shout outs, it may not actually work, but there we go.
Trouble's here. Let the tall ones thunder, let the cruel ones come.
So it's my
And she's still not done. Small doesn't mean fragile, gentle ain't weak. There's iron in her heart and a match in her teeth. Stand back, hear the battle drum. There's a pretty little
that's my shout out with the
knock her down hard, she lands on her feet. With iron in her heart and a match in her teeth.
Right. Then we get our emoji rain. So if we want, if we want an emoji rain to fire, the thing with these at the moment is I don't have most of them actually functioning fully. In my one, I'd have, like, if I add an existing, just to show that they do work. I don't have them playing because I don't really need emojis going over my stream and the like, but I know some people like them, and this was going to my wife eventually, so yeah. We then have our music, so you can see this is a music file, my output, so which of my streaming items it's going out to. We have if it's got lyrics or not, and we have our playlist. And if I start playing this, so like if we play Misery's Daughter here, you see it automatically updates and it starts giving us the lyrics for if we've got the lyrics up, all time synced as best as we can from a lyrics file. So in the case of this one, we get all the lyrics that I wrote for Misery's Daughter. So, and if you're a BattleTech fan, you should have already worked out what this song's about. But yeah, there are, so things like this is a problem with the lyric file, not with my app. There's a lot here and I need to go and I need to check them. So don't think that's a problem with the actual app itself. We've got analytics because at the time and still at the moment, Kick doesn't exactly have greatest analytics. So we can see all my streams for all platforms, or I can go, I just want to see green, or I just want to see purple. Or maybe I want to see my peak followers rather than my average viewers. So my peak things, I can see where I got follows. I can see subs, which will be empty because I haven't had any. I can see all my unique chatters. I can see the duration of my streams. I can then drill down into each. So here we can see over time, average viewers and chat messages, which is what I care about. And we can see that, you know, I get a lot more interaction on Kick than I do on Purple. Just because better community in the end. I hate to say it, Twitch, but true. I'd rather have 6 people or the like watching me and chatting than this one bot that just sits there and looks at shit. Then we have Avatar, which I'm not going to show this properly because I'd have to turn the camera on and everything. But this can take a standard VTube model and so like you load it in and then it will outsend via the NDI protocol. Part of this was because I didn't want to send massive amounts of streaming video over the OBS pipe. It was just easier to do it via NDI. Plus, especially if you were running this like over on a different machine. Then we come down, we have our runtime statuses. So this gives us all the status that this app's looking at. So we get our connection to Twitch, event subs, Twitch pages, Kick integrations, the API, our link between this and OBS, third-party emotes, which will fail for me. I don't have any, so, you know, it's just warning me that, hey, look, no channel profile was found for any of your stuff, therefore I can't actually do anything. We've got our connections, so this is your standard Twitch and Kick login stuff. Obviously not going to show it. This one's here because this uses the unsupported way that the community has been getting certain events and the like from Kick. It's literally unofficial. It's toggle because you may not want it on. This is the bridge. So this is what's talking to Kick, which is obviously on my server. Here, it's behind an SSL certificate. It's got a token that's used to confirm that you're actually authorized to use it. Because obviously data goes through and I don't want people using it without permission. I will be putting the entire bot and everything that Discord bot and everything that runs all this eventually up onto GitHub. I'm not a fan of, oh look, here's my new shiny stuff, but you can't have it. Eventually all this will go up on GitHub. If you want to use it, you can use it. I just won't take responsibility for if anything goes wrong. Then we have our OBS plugin stuff. So in this case, it's like, hey look, I can find the plugin. So I can connect between me and OBS. Here's the WebSocket for the scene control. And all of our stuff for saying, hey look, what's this, what's that. Our stuff for some extra bits, so our application folder, our stuff for our text-to-speech, so we can use either Kuroko, which is a local neural Onyx text-to-speech, uses a small amount of video RAM and the like, but much better voices. Or we can use the built-in Windows system voices, which, well, we all know what they're like. And we can also turn around and do our ignored users and, you know, do a test and the like. We can turn around and say where we want all of these to come through audio sources. Because if you're anything like me now, you've probably got multiples, especially if you're using something like Wavefront. If we want timestamps, and this one's depreciated, and the like. then we have our about, which is just a general about on what the project was for, and everything, and all of our licensing information and everything like that for the open source stuff we've used. Because obviously, you know, that's how it should be. If you use other people's work and the like, you know, licenses, and when this gets distributed, obviously, you know, all of this will be publicly available code complying with the MIT and the GPL and all that fun stuff. But that's my app in a nutshell. We have all of the stuff that bigger programs and the like would have without needing to rely on their web servers. The one downside is for Kick we have to. So you could run Twitch through this without any issue. It's got a full dev key in here and the like, which will not be in the GitHub release. It'll be in any built release that I allow people to use. But if you're going to build this from scratch, obviously you're going to have to go get your own Kick and Twitch app tokens and the like. But overall, yeah, it's just my way of going. I don't want to use the Caster Labs or things like that anymore because I was having nothing but problems with it. I have noticed that I do need to actually update thing. What I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to turn around and go, rather than bold, we're going to just do normal, which should fix some of the text over here. Apply to OBS. As we can see, you know, instantly updated. It shows me everything. If I wanted to show time frame stamps, so you know, we can see timestamps now. I can have it fade. You know, if I didn't want the chat to be here over time, I could have it fade away. Or the like. I can also adjust my layout margins and everything. But yeah, that's a almost 30-minute walkthrough of the app. If you've got any questions, etc., drop them down in comments or reach out. I plan on hopefully, like I said, having a release build that select people can use if they're interested to try it out. But you can go to kick.com/RobGraham, look through my streams, or twitch.com/RobGraham, and you will see I use this daily. It's not perfect, it's a work in progress. There are times it crashes, there's times that I'm bug fixing on the fly during a stream, but I use this in production. Anyway, later.